Well, I think we've done enough speculating how squares might be seeing this game. Let's take a look at how sharps like us see this game, and let's see what we think about it. Let's start with the first sharp on this panel, which is Scott Kellen from SixCentSports.com. Scott, the line opened Giants plus 3.5. It's since been bet down, as you mentioned when we started this call, by both the sharps and the public. Now it's about 2.5. You can get 2.5 very easily. Do you have any take on the spread?
The line came out at 3.5. To me, at 3.5, and I grabbed it at 3.5. Strongest play I've had in probably 4 or 5 years. I think the Giants, as Dave said, I think he nailed it. I think this line should be a pick'em. And obviously now you're crossing over a key number in 3, so the 3.5 becomes tremendously valuable. 3, I think, is still an excellent bet. When you start getting below 3 and the 2.5 that we're seeing right now, I think it's just a good bet on the Giants. I think they're the better team in this game.
Really?
Let's face it. They went to New England earlier this year. They won that game 24-20. Obviously, they needed a drive at the end of the game to win, but they won that game. They played that game without Hakeem Nicks, without Ahmad Bradshaw, without their center David Bass. They were missing key guys in that game. New England, for the most part, had their whole team there. So, the Giants have already beaten them. And in every way I've looked at this game, whether you look at every single game that each team has played, if I look at just road games, just games against playoff teams, just games against good passing teams, because both these teams can throw the ball, every scenario I look at tells me that this game is either a pick-em or it has the Giants winning the game. And then, when you start to go look at the body of work for both these teams, New England can only play the schedule they played, and they didn't play a lot of playoff teams this year, but we know, and let's not count Denver as a playoff team, they lost at Pittsburgh 25-17. They lost at home to these same Giants who didn't have a full stable of players, 24-20. They should have lost 2 weeks ago when they defeated Baltimore 23-20. The other team I would throw in that mix that when they played them was actually playing pretty well, both defensively and offensively, kind of similar to the Giants, is the Cowboys. They need a late score in that game to win 20-16. To me, their body of work against these really, really good teams is less than favorable. So they have not performed against the good teams. They've already lost to the Giants. Every way I slice this, it comes up with the Giants winning the game. And I would say New England is a very similar team to Green Bay. And so in a sense, the Giants have already played New England in the playoffs. There's some differences between those two teams. But the Giants, yes, they got lucky. If that Hail Mary doesn't happen, that game could have, completely turned around and been completely different. But they held the Packers to 4.8 yards a pass. They dominated that game. They averaged 6.9 yards a play. Green Bay averaged 5.3 yards a play. They did that in Green Bay on the road. So I don't see any reason that they can't play with New England here. Again, when you look at those games against playoff teams in Dallas, New England has not scored more than 23 points in any of those games. And New England's defense, to be fair here, has played pretty well, especially when they've had Patrick Chung and Brandon Spikes playing. And they've only given up more than 27 points once this year, which, people talk about how bad their defense is. I think their defense is actually possibly above average with all those guys there. But I just think the Giants are, hands down, a better team than New England.
All right. Well, let me give you maybe a little bit of a devil's advocate perspective on New England, and tell me what you think of it. Some people you might look at this and say that New England is just better rested here. They had a bye, then they had an extremely easy game against Denver, and then sure they had one tough game where maybe they were a little bit rusty against Baltimore. Whereas the Giants have been gearing up for every game, played 3 tough games in a row. Tom Coughlin's kind of a slave driving kind of guy, and maybe the Giants already peaked a week ago or 2 weeks ago or something, and that you give Bill Belichick a rested team with 2 weeks to prepare, and he's going to work a miracle. And 2.5 points is just not that much, given all those factors. What do you think?
Well, I would say 4 years ago, whenever they played, I'm guessing there was a bye between the Super Bowl and the championship games. I don't remember. And obviously, the Giants still came out and won that game. The Giants have had 2 weeks off now, so maybe that theory would hold a little more water if they were playing right after the championship games. And I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I believe New England, after their bye this year, they either played Pittsburgh or the Giants, and they lost that game after their bye. So, everyone talks about Belichick being a great coach, and let's face it, he is a great coach. He's done wonderful things, but he's still only as good as the guys that are playing for him on the field. And yes, he can do some X's and O's that some other coaches can't do. There's no question about that, but if he doesn't have tremendous talent out there, he's still going to be somewhat limited in what he can do. And there's plenty of talent on New England's team. Let's face it, they're in the Super Bowl. But I think the Giants actually have better talent on their team, and that negates some of that, what Belichick can do. I mean, we've seen now Eli Manning is starting to be, just as good as Tom Brady in a lot of these games. I mean, he's the key guy. He's taking them and leading them to scores in the fourth quarter when they need it, which, is a sign of a guy with, ice in his veins. And, so I don't think they have an advantage with Brady over Manning necessarily. Brady looked pretty bad against the Ravens 2 weeks ago. Tom Coughlin's obviously a very good coach, probably not as good as Belichick, but he's very good at what he does. So I don't see, having a couple weeks off as an advantage here for New England.
All right. Okay, so there's one endorsement for the Giants. Now let's move back to Dave Golikoff. And, before we get his official take on the Super Bowl, I do just for everyone watching this, yes, make fun of his face, make fun of his head, the fact that he lives with his mom, make fun of the bong, make fun of all that. But the guy, I will stand by this guy's NFL analysis based on what I've heard all year. I have tailed him profitably, and I trust what he says. Dave, do you still like the Giants even at plus 2.5, maybe even on the money line?
Well, it's good to know, Peter, that as soon as my picks go sour, you'll be throwing me under the bus just like everybody else. But, honestly, on the side, I agree with everything Scott said. There's value with the Giants, but I just don't this is my personal opinion. It's not really a 10-star play, 5-star play, nothing. I just think the Patriots win this game. I think you're giving Belichick film from the first time. You're giving Belichick, 2 weeks to prepare, as Ben said. You got Josh McDaniels back helping that staff out. It's a different Patriots team. You got a fired up Brady after a sloppy performance against Baltimore. I don't think you'll see that again. So, and also the other thing I'll add is that, yes, the Giants have won the last two meetings, in the Super Bowl and earlier this year, but both games were really like, fourth quarter coin flip type results. David Tyree drops the pass on that fourth down and game's over. There's a couple of plays here or there that really makes the difference. So I see this being a really nip-tuck game, and I don't see value on the. I see value with the Giants on the side, but not enough to say that this is a fantastic play for me.